of the Star Wars fandom does not share my excitement. Welcome to my most controversial video.
I will be doing cuts during this video. If you don't like cuts in your videos, watch the original video, then come back and watch this one. You need to do this because I don't want a DMCA strike, and they don't want my entire video to be their video plus my video. This isn't a fucking live stream, okay? Just letting you guys know that.
Over and over again, and like the joke wasn't even really funny to begin with. Well, let's be honest. But one of the most common sentiments I've seen about Star Wars in the last couple years has been Disney is ruining Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy is ruining Star Wars. The liberals are ruining Star Wars.
They are completely correct. Fucking, like, dude. Liberals didn't ruin Star Wars. The movies ruined Star Wars, and liberals co-signed the movies that ruined Star Wars. I apologize. Also, it's not supposed to be liberals, it's supposed to be progressives, okay? Liberals are people in the center, in the middle, okay? Well, most of you motherfuckers will group us in with the progressive left like we don't disagree on like half the shit that we're talking about, okay? Like, Jesus Christ.
It's almost comedic how the film bro incels of this fandom just bounce off of each other and repeat the same bullshit over and over again, thinking that they're saying something clever or funny. Also, I will be referring to these men as incels maybe a few other times in this video. I'm just using it as like a broad sense. I don't actually mean like incels, like the actual definition. I'm kind of just using it as a way to describe how I view these men that comment in these comment sections. I'll also be referring to them as man babies because they are.
So your self-proclaimed goal is to antagonize the most vocal parts of the fandom? Are you insane?
Well, let's get into how these men just pretty much hate Star Wars but still claim to be fans for some reason.
You can be fans of an old version of the property and not be fans of the new one. They are not fans of current Star Wars. They are still fans of old Star Wars. I haven't seen a single person in any of these groups go after the original trilogy or the prequels. They are just hating on Disney Star Wars. Except for that fucking JJ plagiarism motherfucker. That motherfucker, he's just not a fan. I have no idea how you could hate. You know what? Fuck it.
First of all, I'm just gonna lay down a kind of defense for Kathleen Kennedy and Disney. I would also like to put a disclaimer that I do not like the sequel movies. I have a lot of problems with them and how they handle the original trilogy characters. However, you will never catch me agreeing with these men who hate those movies just because Rey is a woman or because Finn is a black man.
You can't tell me Rey or Finn's character arc at all. The first movie for Finn is pretty good. For Rey, it's not that good. Then, for The Last Jedi, for Finn, it's bad. And for Rey, it's moderately okay. And then Rise of Skywalker, it's just a horrible movie. But also, it's like these fans' fault, by the way, for making this movie so bad. I'd rather have a story that everybody dislikes but is coherent than a Rise of Skywalker. So, you know, it's their fault that movie exists, by the way. But, like, you can't name me any character arc of any of those two characters. And then don't even get me started on Poe Dameron. Come on, bro. Poe Dameron. Anyway, I like his character design, by the way.
Or the men who have reused the same joke of somehow Palpatine returned over and over again to the point where it's lost all meaning.
Wait, is that line just not funny on its own? Somehow Palpatine returned. Right? And then they don't explain it for the rest of the movie. I thought that was like the entire joke. You'll never get an explanation on how he returned that's actually like viable or good or cool. To me, that shit just isn't cool. It's lame as fuck. It's genuinely just lame as fuck.
But I would like to come for Kathleen Kennedy's defense because since mishandling who she chose to lead those movies, she has done a lot of good for Lucasfilm and the Star Wars fandom. She is really the reason for why some of my favorite Star Wars projects have been able to be made. If you don't know, Kathleen Kennedy is the president of Lucasfilm, meaning that pretty much any Star Wars thing has to go through her before it gets approved. So she was in charge of bringing J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson onto the sequels. However, even though these men were the heads of the Star Wars sequels, these man-baby incels love to blame Kathleen Kennedy for why the movies were bad, even though the main creative directors were J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson.
Okay, so basically what they're saying in full words is that hiring people doesn't mean you don't take culpability for how those movies eventually turned out. Also, it is their fault if they aren't reading scripts, looking over projects. Like, Kathleen Kennedy has so much time and so much availability to actually make sure things go well, and it ended up going poorly. It is still her fault at the end of the day. But you want to focus on men, because I guess you're just a feminist, a radical feminist who hates men. You're probably a lesbian, and if you are a lesbian, that's pretty cool. But also, you don't have to hate on men. If you don't like men, don't talk about men. Genuinely.
To men, but I guess they just don't want to criticize their little sci-fi golden boy J.J. Abrams and their little murder mystery golden boy Rian Johnson.
With every word, I become more and more right-wing. This is not a joke. Everybody in those communities hates these two people. They talk shit about him every chance. They bring up Rian Johnson without him ever coming up. They just hate that nigga. They hate him so much. They hate Rian Johnson. They hate J.J. Abrams. They hate those two niggas so much. And the fact that this person doesn't know means that they just don't know shit about this community. Like, they don't know shit about the men community. They are literally just a man-hating child. What the fuck?
And that's not even mentioning that there are so many moving parts to a movie. If a movie is bad, it's because it has failed on multiple parts, it's never one person's fault for why a movie is bad. It has to go through so many people.
Wait, so is Kathleen Kennedy not the person who ultimately releases the movie? Or do they just send that shit straight to Disney, and then Disney goes like, oh, who did the checking on this movie? Because, if it ends up not going well, that person needs to be immediately fired. And then they just, lie about, some random, costume designer or some shit. Dude, it is still ultimately Kathleen Kennedy's fault if the movie ends up releasing in the state that it was in. That's ultimately still her fault.
Which, yes, one of those people that had to approve things was Kathleen Kennedy, but that doesn't mean it is her sole fault that these movies failed.
Genuinely, they should have pulled a WB and literally just scrapped the fucking project. Put that shit in the vault, never to be seen again. Also, by the way, that is out of lockstep with, the rest of my community. The rest of my community genuinely believes that Batgirl should be released. So yeah, just in case somebody wants to say, oh, you speak for the entire community. No, I don't. I'm the only one who doesn't want that movie released.
However, I will say that since Disney bought Lucasfilm from George Lucas in 2012, there have been so many amazing projects that have come since then. And reiterating, Kathleen Kennedy was also the reason why these other projects were made. They had to be approved by her. Star Wars Rebels and The Bad Batch have some of the most amazing story writing I have ever seen in an animated kids show. In 2020, we were able to see the finale for Clone Wars, and it was absolutely everything you could hope for and more. Rogue One and Andor have much more gritty tones than we've ever seen in Star Wars, and both are absolutely phenomenal. And Rebels fans, those us right back there, got to see a continuation of the show through the show Ahsoka, and the show is also piecing together how the First Order was even able to rise. And although I didn't really like The Mandalorian, sue me, its success has been absolutely outrageous. You can go absolutely nowhere without seeing Grogu printed somewhere. But this is why I get so confused whenever people say Star Wars hasn't been good for years, because it's like, what are you watching?
Only time will tell, okay? I'm in this thing for the movies. Okay? I don't really care about the TV shows except for Clone Wars and Rebels. That shit, those are goats. Bad Batch, I only watched the first season. It didn't interest me. Having special clones really just makes me feel weird, because if you have special clones with, direct individuality, I'm not gonna go into that argument. That's something for its own video. But basically, I just don't like the concept of the Bad Batch. That's it.
Well, on second thought, I think they're probably not watching any animated shows because animated shows are for kids, or they didn't watch Ahsoka because there were too many women in it, or they did watch it and they didn't watch Rebels beforehand, so now they are the biggest Sabine haters. And I don't know, maybe they just didn't get Andor, or maybe they started watching it and their slow little brains couldn't comprehend a slow-paced show.
What's with the antagonization? That shit does not go well with the most outspoken parts of the fandom. You are insane. Bro, what a brave soul. If this person ends up like fucking suicidal, I will actually tilt my head down and like fucking be sad. Because this is such a brave fucking soul. Because all they're doing is trying to antagonize everybody and hoping that they don't get shit on relentlessly for the like next 6 months. Now, I'm not scared of like fucking getting shit on for the next 6 months. To let you guys know, I've done some fucked up shit before on this channel, and if you want to, you can go back and look at those old videos. But holy McFuck, this person is a legend with how much he wants to antagonize fandoms.
But now that we've covered all our basics, let's talk about the word woke for a moment. I know I don't want to talk about it either, but we have to. I won't go too deep into the history just because its connotation has changed so much over the course of the past couple years. The term was first coined in Black communities, and it was just used in reference to one becoming aware of inequality.
Yeah, the issue is that leftists don't actually fight for terms. What they do is just say you're racist and don't explain the constant meaning of that. Whenever somebody uses woke in a modern project, I still use the original definition for woke, and that kind of fucks me up on what they actually mean. So, like, genuinely, fight for your terms better. Like, right-wing people fight for their terms, and they keep those terms too. Why aren't you fighting for your terms? Really?
So this is what happened with the Acolyte. Toxic Star Wars fans have been attempting to flood any comment section that even mentions the Acolyte. They'll comment about how it's so woke, or Lucasfilm should be sold back to George Lucas, and it's been majority, almost exclusively men who have been saying these things. This one comment in particular really got me. This girl comments about how it's ironic that these men who love the originals are hating on this show, and another guy is like, why is it ironic, blah 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 blah. So I don't know if you guys caught this while watching the original trilogy, but those movies are about an oppressing government who is taking rights away from its people, and the rebels are fighting for equal rights. Remember when I said that the word woke initially meant to become aware of inequality? Yeah, these men have not had a critical thought in their entire life.
You guys do realize pushing the message over making the good film is going to drastically change your perception. Nobody got mad at Princess Leia, but you can also say that the main point of Star Wars was not actually the Empire versus the Rebels, okay? You can make the argument that it's a personal journey for Luke Skywalker, and that's the main point, and that's what people like about Star Wars. Not the actual concept of the Rebels versus the Empire, but you can make the argument that the solo story of Luke Skywalker within those two factions have made Star Wars as cool as it is today. So when they see the change in demographics resulting in things being shit and more shit, you can probably understand why people who don't actually understand the creation of movies are going to be more likely to just say, oh shit, women just suck, instead of being more critical and being like, oh my god, everybody who works on these projects suck. Now, I'm going to be making this statement, and it's that people are actually starting to fight back against companies like Sweet Baby Inc., which do have kind of a little bit better control over these, like, diversity and inclusion stuff. You know, it makes it a little bit better, but they could still go a one step higher and be anti-big business how we want them to be.
but you're not accepting it here in a show that you don't even have the context for it yet. But before I wrap up this rant, I can't talk about Leslie Headland, the showrunner of the show, without bringing up that she was Harvey Weinstein's personal assistant in 2003. Now, I know I just dropped a bomb on you, but the only reason I brought it up is because the man babies brought it up. Trigger warning for essay, but also I'm not going into details at all. I'm kind of just going to assume that you already sort of know who Harvey Weinstein is. But if you were living under a rock in the late 2010s, you would have missed that Harvey Weinstein was accused by multiple women in 2017 of essay. And as of today, he has been charged guilty on 3 of the 7 cases. His exposure was a direct result of the hashtag #MeToo movement, and he was one of the most high-profile cases. But Headland was not his personal assistant at this time. As I said, she was his assistant in 2003 and only for a year. But she did also work with Miramax for 6 years, but a lot of huge people in the industry were working for Miramax before all of this happened, meaning not every single person working for Miramax most likely knew about all of these things that were happening behind the scenes. However, it is important to mention that he had rumors about him as early as 1998, I believe, and there has been a little bit of speculation that Headland was given hush money, but she has claimed that she was pretty much left in the dark about those sorts of things. And she has also come out and said that she is really happy that a lot of women have come out with their stories against him, because she said that she didn't believe that men that powerful could go down. I just thought that was important to mention going forward, just because it gives a little more context on Leslie Headland, and also, like I said, a lot of men who are trying to hate on this show are using this as defense for why they will not be watching the show or why they think it will be bad. Now, I will ask you a question. Do you think the same men that are hating a show just because women are present in it cared at all about the Me Too movement back in 2016 and 2017 when all these women were coming out with their traumatic experiences?
As of the recording of this video, I am 19. Was not involved in any of that shit. I don't even think if I was, I'd just be like, good for you. Also, over the years, after this Me Too movement, I've been involved in, exposing false allegations on the internet. And, not saying every woman is lying, but some women do lie. At the time of Me Too, however, I was never aware of a single false allegation. So, if this happened in, the first year or, first 6 months of Me Too, because the first allegation happened against Slazo on, I think, 6 months after the thing started. If this thing came out back then, of course, people were not going to be fucking questioning those allegations. And I don't think even people who are here today are willing to defend Weinstein on anything. That's just a genuine observation based on the people I interact with within that community. So genuinely, fuck off.
I don't think so, and I don't want to come across as insensitive. Harvey Weinstein is a horrible person and should rot in hell for the things that he did. I just think it's important to mention when talking about the discourse around the Alkalite, because these men don't care about the women who came out during the time of the Me Too movement. They don't care that Harvey Weinstein did all these horrible things. They are just determined to take down a show that is headed by a woman. And even if it does come out that she knows something about what went down, or it is revealed or confirmed that she was given hush money, fine, I'll take it back. But I doubt that these men who are bringing it up actually care about women.
I shouldn't have to explain why this is just a genuinely evil thing to say about anybody, right? I'm glad that they brought this up, right? Earlier, dude, it felt like they weren't. And I apologize for everything I said back in that section. But also, I have to, be completely honest. There is absolutely no way I'm going to ever support this show as long as that person is working on it. I do not give a single flat flying fuck if they knew or not. if there are fucking rumors spreading around the place, even back then, and you end up working for that person, I just don't ever want to support anything you do, and I haven't. Luckily for me, I have not supported a single fucking thing that they did. So I'm just not going to sit here and let anybody just be like, oh, you don't give a fuck about women. I bet everybody in that fucking audience hasn't supported a single thing that she does. I fucking guarantee it.
Because this whole situation feels like when women will not come out with essay allegations or talk about their traumatic experiences for a while just from fear of being called a liar or not being believed. And then men will use that against her and say, well, why didn't you come out about these things when it first happened? One of the reasons that women don't come out with these allegations is because of their own safety. We don't know the circumstances in which why Leslie hasn't said anything, or if she even has anything to say. And of course there were people that were actively trying to hide the things that Weinstein was doing, but I don't think that Leslie was a part of those people at Miramax. Also, it's important to know, I think, that Quentin Tarantino has claimed that he kind of knew of things going on. Do you think these men are really caring about women? They still consume Quentin Tarantino movies and praise that man like no other.
Haha, motherfucker! I haven't supported that nigga either, so you ain't got shit against me! But basically, I didn't even know. Damn, I will be making sure to bring that up in every fucking comment section from now on, every time I see a Quentin Tarantino movie brought up, because I'm not a piece of shit like you. Oh, I'm joking. I'm joking, you're not a piece of shit. You're saying things that you genuinely believe. Hopefully you genuinely believe, because I am not in your head. And on the internet, people tend to lie about how they lean politically so fucking much that it gives me an aneurysm. Okay, so basically at the end of the video, they basically just do this whole thing about how My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is like the best TV show ever in their Star Wars video. That is clearly a joke. They just said be nice, be kind, be hopeful, be grateful in a video where they're not kind, hopeful, or grateful, or even pretends like they even understand the plights of men when it comes to any of these issues. Genuinely, these are not good people. These aren't bad people. These are genuinely just people, and I bet you've probably done some shit like this too. So, you know, I better not be catching you talking shit in the comment section, cause holy fuck, most of you people will talk shit and then act exactly like the niggas. That should be crazy.